Hey everyone, welcome back to Frame Theory. Today we're exposing 10 movie endings that lied straight to your face. These films didn't just trick their characters, they tricked you too. Let's break it down. Get Out's ending doesn't free Chris, but it condemns him to permanent hypervigilance. Chris survives the Armitage family. He kills his captors. Rod rescues him. The credits roll on what feels like victory. But the film quietly shows something else. Chris escapes physical captivity, not psychological conditioning. Evidence lies in how the Armitages operated. They didn't just target bodies, they weaponized politeness, intimacy, and trust. Every smile was a threat. Every relationship was a trap. The sunken place wasn't just a location, it was a state of learned powerlessness. Fans notice the final close-up doesn't show relief. Chris isn't celebrating, he's dissociated, silent, empty. The trauma isn't resolved because the system that created it still exists outside that house. The Armitages lost their victims, but they succeeded in what they were really building, a man who can never feel safe again. The ending didn't lie about survival, it lied about freedom. Black Swan's Nina achieves perfection by erasing the person who wanted it. Nina Sayers dances flawlessly. The audience erupts. She whispers, "I was perfect," and smiles. The film frames this as transcendence, but look closer. Nina didn't become the Black Swan. She became nothing. Her pursuit of perfection erased her identity. Every choice she made stripped away another piece of who she was. Pleasing her mother, destroying Lily, hallucinating encounters, losing grip on reality. The perfect performance required Nina to completely disappear as a person. The final bow isn't liberation, it's the endpoint of total psychological collapse. Nina sacrificed her mental health, her relationships, and her sense of self for a single perfect moment. She became exactly what the ballet demanded, an empty vessel for art. Thomas wanted a ballerina who could lose herself completely. Nina delivered. The tragedy isn't what happens to her body, it's that she considered erasing herself worth it. The standing ovation plays as Nina fades. They're applauding someone who no longer exists. Perfection consumed her, and the audience never noticed. The woman who entered that stage never left it. Whiplash's Andrew becomes everything he swore to destroy. The final drum solo feels like victory, with Andrew proving Fletcher wrong as he commands the stage while the music swells. Fletcher smiles, and the credits roll on what looks like triumph, but it's actually Andrew's complete defeat. Look at that final smile, because Fletcher isn't impressed by rebellion, he's celebrating success. Andrew just validated everything Fletcher believes, that abuse works, that cruelty creates genius, and that destroying students is justified if it produces one great performance. Andrew didn't win, he became Fletcher's masterpiece. Every boundary Andrew set disappeared as he abandoned family connections and destroyed romantic relationships. He internalized Fletcher's voice so completely that he no longer needs the actual man standing there. Fletcher can retire now, knowing Andrew will abuse himself forever, chasing impossible standards while sacrificing human connection for artistic perfection. The final shot shows Fletcher watching with satisfaction because he didn't lose a student, he created a successor. Andrew will perpetuate the same cruelty on future musicians, ensuring the cycle continues. Fletcher won completely, and Andrew will never realize he lost everything that mattered. Before we continue, if you think Whiplash's ending was dark, wait until you see what Birdman's final frames actually reveal. But first, let's keep deconstructing these lies. The witch's Thomasin finds freedom by surrendering to damnation. Thomasin ascends into the forest, naked and laughing with the witches as the film presents this as liberation from Puritan oppression. She's finally free from her abusive family and free from patriarchal control, but frame theory reveals the horrifying truth. Thomasin didn't escape. She joined something worse. Her family was cruel, yes, but Black Phillip didn't offer freedom. He offered new servitude. The witch's coven operates under the same power structure she fled, built on worship, submission, and total surrender. Watch the final levitation scene carefully, because Thomasin isn't leading, she's following. The other witches are decades older, and they've been doing this longer, which means she's not a queen, but the newest recruit in a demonic hierarchy. Her liberation required murdering her family, abandoning her humanity, and pledging eternity to something that will consume her. The Puritan god was oppressive, but the forest god is worse. Thomason traded visible chains for invisible ones, and her ecstatic laughter masks complete spiritual annihilation. La La Land's fantasy sequence is psychological torture disguised as bittersweet nostalgia. Sebastian and Mia lock eyes across Seb's jazz club after they've both achieved their dreams but are now with other people. The film shows us what could have been: marriage, children, artistic fulfillment together, then snaps back to reality while the audience cries at the beautiful what if. But this isn't beautiful, it's cruel. Damien Chazelle forces his characters to vividly imagine the life they destroyed, not abstractly but in complete sensory detail. Every moment of that fantasy sequence is another knife twist as they see exactly what they sacrificed, frame by frame, choice by choice. Mia and Sebastian didn't make a mature decision. They made a devastating mistake and rationalized it afterward. The fantasy proves they wanted each other more than their careers. They just lacked the courage to fight for both. The final glance isn't closure. It's two people realizing they threw away their actual soulmate for professional achievement. They'll spend their lives wondering, and every success will taste like ash. La La Land doesn't end with acceptance. It ends with permanent regret. Joker's Arthur doesn't find freedom. He completely loses his mind and calls it liberation. Arthur laughs in Arkham Asylum, finally free from society's constraints, as the film ends with him dancing down white hallways, leaving bloody footprints. Todd Phillips frames this as dark triumph, suggesting Arthur became who he was meant to be, but rewinding the frames reveals Arthur didn't win anything. He lost everything, including his sanity. Watch his final laugh carefully, because it's not joy, it's fracture. Arthur can no longer distinguish reality from delusion, and the entire film questions what actually happened versus what he imagined. The Arkham ending confirms he's completely untethered from truth, proving his freedom is psychosis and his victory is total mental collapse. The therapist he kills at the end represents his last connection to reality, so when he murders her, he severs his final anchor. Arthur isn't Joker the criminal mastermind. He's Arthur the permanently broken man who thinks chaos is purpose. The bloody footprints aren't a threat. They're evidence of someone who'll spend his entire life in that asylum, laughing at jokes only he understands. Society didn't lose. Arthur did, but he just can't tell the difference anymore. Hereditary's Peter becomes demon royalty by losing every person who ever loved him. Peter sits crowned in the treehouse, surrounded by worshippers as the cult greets Paimon with reverence. If you're not paying attention, this looks like supernatural victory where the demon won, but zooming out reveals Peter lost everything. His sister was decapitated, his mother possessed then burned, his father immolated, and his grandmother revealed as a secret cultist. His entire family was sacrificed to put a demon in his body, which means Peter didn't ascend. Peter died. The entity wearing his face isn't him anymore, because every memory, every relationship, and every moment of his actual life has been erased. The cult celebrates because they finally have their male host, but Peter's consciousness is gone. Paimon wears him like a suit, and the worship isn't for Peter. It's for the thing that consumed him. Ari Aster's final frames show Peter's blank face with no recognition and no humanity, just a hollow vessel. The Graham family didn't end tragically. They were systematically harvested, and Peter's coronation is the funeral for the boy who once existed. Promising young woman's Cassie gets revenge by sacrificing the only thing she had left, her future. Cassie dies in a remote cabin, burned and buried while the men who killed her think they won. Then the scheduled texts arrive, the video evidence uploads, and the police show up at Al's wedding with justice seemingly served. The audience cheers Cassie's posthumous victory, but rewinding those frames shows Cassie didn't win. She chose death over healing. Watch her final plan carefully, because she knew she'd die. The voicemails, the scheduled messages, the lawyer with instructions, Cassie engineered her own murder to guarantee her rapist faced consequences. But that means she valued vengeance more than her own life, more than a future with Ryan, more than the career she abandoned, and more than ever moving past Nina's trauma. Emerald Fennell frames this as empowerment with Cassie taking control, but it's tragedy. A 30-year-old woman so consumed by grief that death became her only solution, and while the rapists go to prison, Cassie is still dead, and Nina is still dead, while the system that enabled it all keeps functioning. Cassie's colorful nails typing those final messages aren't victory signs. They're notes disguised as strategy. She didn't defeat the patriarchy. She became its latest casualty while calling it a win. No Country for Old Men ends with evil winning and good people realizing they never had a chance. Llewellyn dies off screen, Carla Jean is murdered, and Anton Chigurh walks away from a car crash while Sheriff Bell retires defeated and confused. The Coens don't give you catharsis. They give you nihilism. Bell's final monologue about his dream seems peaceful as he describes his father carrying fire through darkness, but reading the frames reveals Bell isn't hopeful. He's lost. He spent his entire career believing in order, justice, and moral cause and effect. Then Chigurh proved none of it matters because evil doesn't need motivation and violence doesn't need reason. Bell retires because he finally understands that the world doesn't reward good men. It grinds them down while chaos thrives. Chigurh represents inevitable entropy, something you can't arrest and can't understand. You can only age out and let younger men fail in your place. The dream of his father isn't comforting. It's Bell admitting he's too old for a world this cold. The old men aren't wise, they're defeated, and the country belongs to people like Chigurh now. Birdman's Riggin doesn't grow wings. The final scene is his daughter's traumatized hallucination. Riggin performs his final act on stage, and the audience erupts while critics rave. He wakes in a hospital, removes his bandages, and seemingly flies away through the window as his daughter watches, smiling. Alejandro González Iñárritu wants you to debate if it's real, but the frames give it away. Nothing after the performance actually happened. Everything following the shooting is fantasy, either Riggin's final thoughts or Sam's traumatized denial creating a narrative she can accept. The too perfect critical acclaim, the too convenient reconciliation with Sam, and the too literal manifestation of flight he's hallucinated the entire film. It's all wish fulfillment constructed to avoid facing reality. Watch Sam's final expression, because it's not joy, it's dissociation. She's not watching her father fly. She's watching nothing while creating a story she can survive with. Riggin spent the entire film chasing relevance, validation, and artistic transcendence, but he got none of it. He got an ending that never happened beyond the stage. The levitation isn't magical realism. It's denial taking visual form. Riggin's sacrifice for his art becomes something his daughter has to reframe as transcendence. The final frame is Sam looking up at empty sky, choosing a beautiful delusion over unbearable truth. So which ending lied to you the hardest? Did I miss a film that pretends everything's fine while hiding complete devastation? Drop your theories in the comments, and if you want more hidden truths decoded frame by frame, subscribe and hit that bell. The art of connecting hidden frames in fiction continues next time.